Gentlemen, if you're over the age of 30 and you don't have this one thing that I'm about to show you right now, then hot girls, and I'm talking about the 8s, the 9s, and the 10s, then hot girls will completely ignore you for the rest of your life forever and ever. So if you like hot girls, you are basically screwed if you do not fix this right here. And today, guys, I am not here to coddle you. I am not here to sugarcoat this. Okay, I made this video to hurt your feelings. Not because I'm cruel here, but because most guys need a big slap across the face before they're gonna wake up. So, you can call me mean here. You can get all mad about it, but it does not change the truth. And here it is. Now, after coaching hundreds of men over the last 2 decades, okay, I've seen the same pattern come up again and again. Now, other dating coaches, they're going to tell you, oh, anyone can date a hot girl. But gentlemen, that, I'm telling you right now, is a big, fat fucking lie. These other coaches are selling you a fantasy because this is the reality. This one thing here I'm going to show you today, this right here is a dividing line. Where on one side of the line, we got the men who have the potential to date stunning, hot, young, beautiful women. The kind of women who could literally get paid just for being hot. And on the other side of the line are all the rest of the men who are stuck dating the 4s, the 5s, and the 6s. Those women with a long laundry list of problems. Broke, in debt, where they got multiple kids from different men. They're in their 50s. They're long past their prime. They're overweight. They're out of shape. They have bad genetics. And if you don't have this one thing working for you in your corner, then I'm telling you, those top tier women, the women you really want, the 8s, the 9s, and the 10s, will forever, always and always, be out of your reach. No matter what else you try, no matter what game you learn. All right, so let's break this down. There are essentially 2 types of men out there walking on this planet Earth, okay? And the first type of guy, we'll call him the action taker. And the action taker, when it comes to a big, thorny problem, right? A problem that is difficult to solve. It's not an easy fix. What he does is he attacks that problem head on, okay? He goes after the problem aggressively and he's persistent, where he takes risks to solve the problem and he sacrifices his short-term comfort in order to get the long-term outcome that he wants, all right? That's the first type of guy. Now, the second type of man out there, and this is far more common, we could call him the passenger. And the passenger, he's far more passive, especially when it comes to solving these big, thorny, sticky, messy problems out there, where he waits for permission from others and he wants to be told what to do every step of the way. Where when it comes to a big, thorny, sticky, messy problem, he tends to procrastinate. And instead of pushing events around through his own will, through his own action, life pushes him around in the direction that life wants to go. Because he's playing it safe and he's the type of guy that just goes with the flow, okay? He's super chill, he's super relaxed, he's not aggressive about changing things himself. Now, between the 2 guys, look, I'm not saying that one is better than the other. This world requires all sorts of people. We need all types of different personalities out there. But look, when it comes to the subject of beautiful women, like you want to be dating 8s, 9s, 10s, the type of women that get paid for looking pretty, that are going to make your friends jealous, that you're going to love in bed every time you're taking her clothes off, you're just amazed looking at her. If you want those type of women, you definitely want to be the action taker. Because if you are the passenger, if you're the passenger personality type, those women will literally be cut off from you forever. Now, 50 years ago, guys, it was a very, very different world. If you went back to the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, you could absolutely be the passive passenger and still win at the game. Okay, you could be the guy waiting around for permission to do anything, just do what you were told, show up to some job that you just randomly got where you're taking orders and you're just going with the flow of things, not really attacking big, thorny, messy problems, and you could still get yourself a good girl, get yourself a wife, get married, pop out a couple of kids, okay? Life was very simple. The advantage of that system back then was that the system did take care of average guys, all right? You could be an average dude, perfectly average, the kind of guy that plays it safe, just goes with the flow of things, a little bit passive, life is pushing him around, but it's pushing him around in a good direction. You could just go to work, meet some girl in the small town or that medium-sized city because you only had a limited number of options. Really simple, you buy her some flowers, you take her out on a date, you guys get married, you got a couple of kids. But gentlemen, as you know, that world is completely gone, all right? That world is kaput. Modern dating now is a very different beast. Modern dating now is this messy, thorny, cutthroat problem where modern women are going after action takers. Modern women would rather share the man who's an action taker, a massive action taker that takes problems head on and runs into big thorny problems. They would rather share that guy than date the passive passenger. So let me give you an example here, all right? I'm gonna paint a picture for you just so you really understand what I'm talking about. Just a hypothetical scenario. Imagine that you live in a small little town. In other words, it's a very thin dating market. There's not a lot of women around. There's no 8s, 9s, and 10s around, okay? And you know that you need to move to actually meet the kind of women you actually want. Well, that is a very sticky, thorny, messy problem you have on your hands when you're stuck in a small little town. Why? Because it's hard to move. It's expensive. It's uncomfortable. Maybe mom and dad are next door and you're gonna miss them. All your old friends from high school. You're gonna move, you're gonna miss them. There's a little job waiting for you that you're working at that doesn't pay that much, but it's comfortable. You grew up there your whole life, it's comfortable. So what do most guys do? Well, most men are passive passengers. They're waiting for permission from mom and dad to move. They're waiting for permission from their friends. Life is just pushing him around. He's just playing it safe. He's going with the flow. And he spends years trying to figure it out on how to leave this small town. Now contrast that to the action taker, the guy that attacks these big, thorny, messy problems head on, where he runs into the problem full speed ahead. Does he spend years trying to figure it out? Absolutely not, guys. It's the type of guy who says, fuck it. He quits his small town job that was comfortable. He moves, he jumps into his car. Maybe it's a beat up old little Toyota. He drives 1,000 miles down to the big city. Maybe he has to live out of his car for a couple of months while he figures things out. But he takes massive action. Okay, that's the difference. He takes massive action right away to solve this big, thorny problem where he burns all of his comfort to the ground. Okay, he's gonna sacrifice comfort in favor of a long-term solution to get the 8s, the 9s, and the 10s. And it's that action-taking muscle right there. That is the quality, that is the trait, that is the difference between the guy who is stuck and capped at dating 5s and 6s versus the guy that has the potential to be dating the very beautiful women, the 7s, the 8s, the 9s, and the 10s. Now here's another big tell about what kind of guy you are, whether you are the action taker that has the potential to date the 8s and the 9s, or if you're stuck as a passive passenger stuck with the 5s and 6s. And that, gentlemen, is your work life, okay? And your work life is often, now not always, but often, a mirror of your dating life. So let me ask you something. Did you simply try to coast through school or college, just, getting by, and then you graduated and you suddenly thought to yourself, oh my God, I actually need to make some money. I got to get serious about things. So you grabbed whatever job happened to be there, whatever was nearby. Maybe you became a teacher, maybe you became the mailman, or you started driving a truck. Not because you burned inside to do that thing, not because you hunted it down like a killer on a mission here, but simply because it was there. It was there. The pay was kind of good, felt comfortable enough, it was kind of easy to get into, and society, or maybe it was your mom, she gave you permission, she gave you that pat on the head, she gave you the approval, okay? So you just kind of passively went with the flow of life, and you show up to the job, you clock out, you go home, and you rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And that strategy was certainly valid 50 years ago. Just be a simple guy, living a simple life, work in a simple job that you do day after day, the same thing over and over. There's no big thorny problems to solve. He could still meet a good girl and get married and have some kids, all right? But that's gone, like we said. Now, the other type of guy is the action taker, the guy who forward attacks big problems and take risks. So this guy, maybe he chooses his work when it looks insane from everybody else on the outside. Like maybe he started his own business when everyone else swore that he'd fail. Or maybe he moved across the country for this demanding, high-level role that he'd been chasing after, where he made it happen. He directed life in his own direction. Maybe now he's running a team of 20 different people, and his job is putting out these big, thorny, messy fires every single week. And he thrives on that. And it's that guy right there, the action taker, the guy who takes risks, the guy who is seeking out these big, thorny problems and trying to solve them. That's the type of guy that will do the same thing with his dating life. That's the type of guy who sees the 8s, the 9s, and the 10s out there that he wants to date. He realizes that it's a big, thorny, messy problem that needs to be solved, and he runs head on into that fire to solve the problem. Like, just to bring this home, to give you a personal example from my life, I had this school friend who literally picked his career, all right? He picked his job because it was within walking distance of his mom's house. And now 20 years later, he's at that same job. He's still broke. He doesn't have any women, and he's still whining about girls. And that's what most guys do. They are too passive. And they never connect the dots that the way they play the game at work is typically the same way they play the game at dating. So guys, if you really want to date the 8s and the 9s, the type of women that get paid for being pretty, the type of women you really want to date, you need to be forward attacking. You got this big, messy problem of dating beautiful girls. You're the type of guy that runs into the big, thorny problem no matter how uncomfortable it gets. Where you are solutions oriented. Where you start to feel a little bit comfortable and you're like, wait a second, this is a problem. I'm starting to feel comfortable. This is not good. This is a bad sign. Where you feel that your comfort is a curse and you're willing to break your comfort in order to find a solution. So, for example, guy number 1, the passive passenger, if he doesn't know how to talk to women and he kind of realizes there's a problem there, he gets excited for a week, but he's passive. Life pushes him around. He plays it safe. He's always going with the flow. So he gets inspired for a week, feels a little uncomfortable, and he just gives up, right? You need to be guy number 2. What does the action taker do when he realizes there's a problem? When he realizes he's not getting the women he wants? What does the action taker do? Okay, he attacks the problem head on. Maybe he hires a coach, for example. Or he goes out every weekend to a bar, forces himself to talk to girls, forces himself to meet people, even if it does feel uncomfortable, and he just obsessively attacks that problem. He's like a bulldog that grabs onto the problem and he will not let go for anything until he gets to a solution, right? He faces the problem head on and he forward attacks it until he gets to that solution he wants. That's the type of guy that will eventually date the women he really wants, the 8s and the 9s and the 10s. So let's take one more example here. Say you want to start meeting women online, but you don't have a profile. Okay, you don't have photos. So what does the passive passenger type guy do? The guy that waits for permission, the guy that procrastinates, and life is just pushing him around because he plays it too safe and he's always going with the flow. What does he do to solve the problem, meeting women online? Well, we can imagine, he goes to his bathroom, okay, lighting his shit. He's wearing a grubby old t-shirt. He holds up his phone and he goes, click, and he posts that one photo online. And then women just, as you can imagine, completely ignore him, give him no attention. And what does he do next? He goes online to complain about it. He starts watching red pill videos about how women are these terrible cunts that ignore all the good men. And as you can imagine, that passive passenger guy, the guy who's waiting for permission, he's procrastinating. Life is just pushing him around. He wants to avoid the big, thorny, sticky problems instead of running into them head on. He is capped at dating the 4s and the 5s and the 6s. Those 8s and 9s are forever out of reach no matter what he does because he has this fatal flaw of being way too passive. But now let's take a look at the action taker. So what does the action taker do when he needs photos for a profile? Well, maybe he goes out there and he spends a couple $100 on a photographer. Okay, he goes online, he does his research, he gets in touch with the photographer, he sets up the photo shoot. It's all uncomfortable, but it's this big, thorny, sticky problem about meeting women online that he runs into. He relishes the discomfort. Or maybe if his money is tight, he learns a little bit about photography, maybe gets himself a tripod, a remote for his phone, and he takes hundreds and hundreds of photos, and then he gets feedback on the photos from friends and family, maybe gets feedback online, figure out what's working and what's not. The point is, he forward attacks the problem. It all takes time, it's all uncomfortable, but he's got this big thorny problem of needing to solve the online dating game, and he puts the attention, he puts the effort into it, and he's okay with temporary discomfort to solve a long-term problem. He is like a bulldog latching onto the problem and never letting go because he is relentless and he is persistent. And that really is right there the difference between a guy who is stuck at dating the 5s and the 6s and the guy who has the potential, at least, to be dating the 8s, the 9s, and the 10s. So look, what do you do when you realize that you have been that passive guy living in comfort, procrastinating, life is just pushing you around, and you want to date higher quality women? Or maybe you are that action taker that takes problems head on, but you just need a push in the right direction. You just need a little bit of guidance. Well, this is where we fix that, guys, because I've got a 12-week one-on-one coaching program where you work directly with me right here at youngerpartner.com, where I walk you step by step by step to getting you the exact girlfriend you actually want. And we use something called visual neural programming that just rips out all those limiting beliefs right out of your head that are holding you back and rewires you into a man that takes action. We rewire you to be confident, so when you see that beautiful woman walk on by, you know exactly how to go up to her. You know exactly how to start a conversation with her and how to take her on a fun date. All you need, guys, is a little bit of guidance. All you need is a little bit of direction to get some momentum and a coach who's going to be in your corner every step of the way. And that way, gentlemen, you can literally shave years off of your learning curve and start dating the kind of girls you really want in just a few short months. And all you got to do to make it happen is go right here to youngerpartner.com. And you can apply for a free strategy phone call with me where we're going to sit down and find out if this sort of coaching is truly a good fit for you. All right, gentlemen, since you enjoyed this video so much, you got to watch this one next. This is the reason that hot, younger, beautiful women ignore you after you turn 30, as you get older. And this is something you got to fix right now, guys. This is that invisible delusion that most men are living under after the age of 30 that repels these younger, beautiful women. And you got to get it fixed right now. So go watch that video.